And there's my friend Tony. Hey, Tony.
Hey, Katie. Great to see you from Austin.
I know it's great to see you too, and I love how you always do this in your car.
I know,
Uh,
right? I'm a man on the move, Katie. A lot going on
yeah,
in our
exactly.
city and state.
It's a live and drive, but I'm glad you're not driving. And all
I
right,
am part, yeah.
so Governor Greg Abbott won handily, um, and I'm just curious. I don't think people thought Beto O'Rourke would win. There were many people who wanted him to win, who were very disappointed this morning. Why do you think he couldn't pull it out?
I mean, Katie, at the end of the day, I think what this shows us is that Texas is, in fact, not really on the cusp of a blue wave that Texas Democrats have really hoped for several years now. Of course, when you look at Beto O'Rourke himself and you see what happened in 2018 and how close he came to defeating Ted Cruz in the Senate race, many people thought that he still had that momentum going into a race for the governor. And when you look at polls, frankly, over the past several months, there were indications that he did, in fact, have some momentum. The polls really weren't necessarily saying that he would win, but it did put him within reach. And so going into the election, I think many people were hoping that there would be, a swell of Democratic voters at the polls on election day and in early voting, and that would somehow push him across the finish line. But that didn't happen. I think what is so surprising last night and as people wake up today is the spread that we have seen. We're talking about 10 points, a 10 percentage point difference between Greg Abbott and Beto O'Rourke.
And I think one of the most shocking things is Uvalde County, where that horrific mass shooting of fourth graders happened, and the really unbelievably slow and horrifically slow response by the police. Uvalde County went overwhelmingly for Greg Abbott. How do you explain that?
I'm still trying to unpack it. This morning, I had an opportunity to talk on the phone briefly with State Senator Roland Gutierrez, who has been at the forefront of advocating for the families of the victims, as well as advocating for gun reform, really from the time that the shooting happened. He actually interrupted a news conference by the governor and said, please call us back for a legislative session. And yet in that county, he lost to a Republican opponent by like 15 to 20%. Now, his seat is obviously a district-wide, so he will retain his seat, but Uvalde County solidly went for Republicans. And it is a Republican county, but I think that so many people, and particularly Katie, people who've been so personally traumatized and affected by what happened, there's been this burst of activism and advocacy since the shooting, and many of the family members actually teaming up with Beto O'Rourke and their calls and really demands in some respects for gun reform. And I think that so many of them are just waking up this morning truly feeling slapped in the face and wondering, who were my friends and who were my neighbors that not only did they vote for Greg Abbott, but they did so resoundingly. I mean, we're talking about a 10-point spread statewide, but in that county alone, Greg Abbott won by 22 percentage points.
Wow. And I know that you think possibly it was sort of immigration and border issues that took precedence over gun violence in Uvalde.
Well, and I plan to talk to him more later, but the senator believes that number one, there is a voter apathy problem, particularly among Hispanic voters, but I think among people who did vote in this race, particularly in that county, what I'm hearing from the ground there is that the governor's message of border security, for example, really resonated with a lot of those voters, particularly in a county that is part of the border region here in Texas.
So in closing, Tony, what is Beto O'Rourke's future? I mean, this is The third time was not a charm. He came close to unseating Ted Cruz in the
3
Senate
points.
race.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't have as much success this time in the governor's race. He ran for president. Where do you think his political career takes him, or do you think this is it for Beto O'Rourke, or is he going to take a break? I mean, what have you talked to people on his team?
There is really kind of a myriad of thoughts, and some of the possibilities that you just named are among the ones that are being talked about. Maybe he steps aside for some period of time and takes a break from the public and political spotlight to maybe regroup, maybe give Texas time to potentially become more blue over the next several years. But other people think that, you know, he's done for at this point, that there's no real way after these defeats to really stage much of a comeback and be effective as a candidate. He essentially acknowledged last night in his concession speech that he doesn't know what the future holds for him, but he steadfastly thanked his supporters for following him and being with him, not only in this race, but in all of his races over the past several years, Katie.
Well, Tony Plohetski, I really appreciate it. Thank you for your insight as always. And
absolutely.
And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, Katie, thank you. Great to see you.
Great to see you, Tony. So that kind of wraps it up for us. We wanted to give you all some insights into some of these key races. It sounds like Arizona is definitely not a done deal, that Carrie Lake could still be elected the governor, one of the most outspoken election deniers, a former TV anchor who's a very charismatic and powerful campaigner out on the trail. Sounds like Mark Kelly is, you know, it's neck and neck with that Senate race. And who else did we talk to before that? We talked to Ohio. That J.D. Vance obviously is headed to the Senate and Tim Ryan is not. So anyway, and Norm Ornstein told us that basically because the House, that the Republicans took over the House or taking over the House, but not by nearly as big a margin as many people predicted. So it possibly won't give them the mandate to do some of the things that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jim Jones and other people want to do when it comes to seeking revenge against the White House and the Biden administration and Democrats writ large for some of the investigations that they've conducted against Donald Trump. Anyway, this was fun. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoy conversations like this, let me know and I'll try to do more of them. But I'm obsessed with politics and I was obsessed with the midterms. So thanks for watching. Now I got to go pick up my husband, John, from the